I just showed up every day, being at my worst, being open, saying how tough it was, and just being vulnerable. And I think that's what led to some success at the end of last year. I was just out there being brave and bold.
Is there anybody there?
Welcome to the Mind Hustle podcast, practical advice for mastering your mindset and self-improvement. I'm your host, magician and mind reader, Dean O'Dell, and today I'm joined by Ricky Locke. Ricky is a magician, speaker, trainer, and the host of the Unlock podcast. Ricky inspires others to achieve success and to live the best versions of themselves, as well as creating memories that will last a lifetime. Hello and welcome, Ricky. Thank you so much for joining us on the Mind Hustle podcast.
Oh, thank you very much, Dean. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you.
As always, yeah, it's great to talk with you. And I think I'm just going to jump straight into this, really. So, and this is a question I've avoided asking so far on the podcast, but I think it'll give a bit of context to what we're going to discuss a little bit later. And that's, can you give a bit of background to what you do, where you are now, and what's that journey been like for you?
Wow. Yeah, great question. I guess really, I always like to start this off by saying, hi, I'm Ricky Locke, I'm 31 and I'm from Bourne, like take me out. Not that I'd ever do it, but yeah, so my name's Ricky. I live in Bourne, South Lincolnshire, and I am a professional magician, a speaker, a trainer, and host of the Unlock podcast. So thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I guess really, yeah, it's been an interesting journey for me because where I am right now is probably completely different to where I probably thought I was going to be like 15, 16 years ago. So to give a bit of context, I spent the last probably, say, 15 to 16 years working in retail. I left school with not really any idea of what I wanted to do in my life and just kind of fell into retail as most people do. I don't think many people kind of aspire to go into retail. It kind of just happens naturally. And that happened for me. And during a time when we were in sixth form, a lot of my friends, they were kind of planning to go in uni and stuff like that. And we had to do work experience. Because I already had a job, I just said to my boss, hey, Darren, do you mind if I just stay here for 2 weeks? And, I've already got a job, so there's no point in me going anywhere else. He went, great, Ricky. Yeah, we'll get you on the till. Just for context, I used to be like a little stockroom picker, just picking items in Argos. And and I enjoyed it. And for like a 16, 17-year-old lad, getting 2 weeks full-time pay was just amazing. And I was like, I think this is probably what I want to do. And didn't really know what I wanted to do in life, like so many people. I just kind of stayed, and I thought that was going to be my life. I stayed there for 15 years, but for the first 5 years of it, naturally went up the hierarchy chain, going into stock team leading, and then I went into, I think my first role was a stockroom manager, and then I went into customer service manager, and then into a store manager, and then eventually into a national training role for the whole of Argos and Sainsbury's. But during this time, as people will know, I built up a business. And I basically sat in hotel rooms for the last 5 years of my career, building the business online for my magic. And I work in the wedding industry like yourself, Dean. And I kind of felt that was the kind of passion for me. And that's where I really wanted to go in life. And during the time, there was a real point in the career where I'm not narcissistic at all, by the way, how this comes out. But there was a point when I liked being in front of people, whether it was either presenting, performing, running a workshop. And that just fitted really well with the magic. And then there was a point where I was going to leave a couple of years ago, and my boss just said, just wait, Ricky, because the way the business is going, you might get made redundant. So we held out. And as you know, last year, 2020 was going to be that year of dreams for me, 45 weddings already in the diary. I was like, this is great. Got made redundant. A week later, all the business overnight, pardon the pun, completely disappeared. And it was just quite a strange, difficult time. But that difficult time has led to me doing what I'm doing now, doing a lot of training, a lot of speaking, and a lot of inspirational stuff on the podcast. And it's always kind of fitted around who I am as a person. And as we'll probably talk later on, I genuinely believe about creating these wonderful magical experiences. So very strange journey, 15-year retail career, presenting, performing, and bribing my team with magic tricks to make them work for me, learning people skills and stuff like that to a point where I am now. Yeah, training, speaking, podcasting, and still running events. So yeah,
that's great. And I think one of the things that I admire about you is your positivity, and you just kind of glossed over the fact that you were made redundant, and then suddenly we were in a national pandemic or worldwide pandemic, and you had then no income from all of these events that you had. So how do you stay positive through that? And how can we bring more positivity into our own lives? I think that'd be really useful to share.
Great question. How do I stay positive? So I guess the first thing to understand is that I am just a normal human being. So I do have bad days, things go wrong. But it's the choices that we make that will determine our behavior. And just for a bit of context, I don't believe in what we call the secret. So if anyone's heard the secret about the manifestation of, believing in stuff and then it will appear, if I desire a Ferrari, I don't think it's going to suddenly appear. There's work that's got to go into that to achieve that. Although I do believe in making choices to get that desired outcome, the biggest thing about staying positive is the choice. Because if I turned up on social media just saying how crap life was, how miserable things were, I've got no money, I've got no income, my clients are leaving left, right, center, no one would care. No one really wants to see that at all. But it's a complete choice. And I think to add a bit of context, if I can share a little bit of a story, this might add a bit of context. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
okay,
share
brilliant.
away.
So it happened last year, really, when, as you know, I was all set for this wonderful new adventure. I was going to, go into full-time professional magician, doing 45 weddings, doing speaking events and training events alongside that. And it got to a point in May last year where I kind of had like a mini breakdown. And if I'm honest, I'd probably say it was probably borderline depression. Although I wasn't diagnosed by it, the symptoms probably came out as depression. And I think for so long, I had, and like yourself, Dean, we turn up at events, we turn up at these wonderful things, and we're always on Facebook saying, look, I'm at this event, look how happy I'm making people feel. That I think people just had this perception that I'm okay, I must be fine because I'm going out there and creating these wonderful things. And it got to a point where I thought, I'm not okay. No, I've lost my business, I've lost everything, I've lost all of this. I need to reach out. And I did. I reached out, and I remember even having a conversation with my mum and crying on the phone to my mum saying, I'm not okay, Mum. And she went, what do you mean, Ricky? You're always putting these positive things out there. I said, well, yeah, actually, but I needed to separate last year the difference between the performer Ricky and then the human being Ricky. So we're human beings, we're not human doings, which means we think and we feel. And therefore I had to just open up about that. But the positivity still came from that, because I genuinely believe that we should be creating these wonderful experiences. But there was a point last year after that moment where I started to go down a bit of a different path. And a great friend of mine, Bev Holden, she had a great little coaching conversation with me, and she really put things into perspective for me about what other people are doing right now in the world. And then I walked away from that conversation feeling so privileged, like, oh my God, I'm moaning about the most mundane, insignificant things in life, and there are other people out there that are struggling. And I was moaning about that I'm not getting income, I'm not getting this, but then I'm in a lovely house, I'm in, I've got a car, I've got food on the table. These are wonderful things that we need to be grateful about. And it really ties in well for, I know that you're going to ask this question later on, but this is one of the things about a recommendation, a great book by Paul McGee, Sumo, which is Shut Up, Move On, which he's a fantastic guy. He's a Manx, so he just says it as it is. But the idea that comes from this analogy, which was based on Jack Canfield, which is E plus R equals O, which the idea of that is the event plus the reaction equals the outcome. So what could I do? The event happened, the global pandemic destroyed my business, destroyed everything for me. The reaction plus the R would determine that outcome. So if I choose to sit there and be miserable and moan and get pissed off and talk about how the government's, destroyed me and all this, then what's the outcome going to be? I'm going to be negative. I'm going to attract negativity. It's not going to make my life happen. And I just used that last year. I used the point of being almost depressed and the point of looking at a perspective that actually, do you know what? This is the outcome. I can't control that. It is what it is. I don't believe that we're all in the same boat. I think that, as we've seen before, furlough boats are lovely, aren't they? And the self-employed rafts are terrible. But I do generally believe that we are all in the same storm. We're just not in the same boat. And I can have a choice that I can make a decision. So I decided, you know what? I can't control anything about this, but I am going to do one thing, and that is choose how to think and feel. And I just decided to continue to be positive and just put lovely things out there, check in with people, send voice memos to people, and just trying to make people feel happy. So it was, I think I did this, I think it was called Kindness Friday, Ripples of Kindness, where I was starting to just send voice memos to people and saying, hey, hope you're well, love what you're doing, keep it up, you're doing a great job. And then I kind of got invited into other projects, such as Kindfest and other things like that. But it's lots of different things. But the main thing, I think, it has to be a choice. And if I can quote Andy Cope, you know, I absolutely love him. For anyone that listens to my podcast, I talk about him every time in the podcast. And he puts it really, really simple. And not to go too rude here or into like controversial here, but Dean, if you was to think about how you were conceived, I know it seems like a very strange thing.
Yeah, sure.
And even myself, right? But you think about that one little wriggler, that one little sperm that got through.
Yeah, one in billions. Yeah.
What a huge, you know, chance that was to happen. And every day that you are alive and every day that you wake up, that's winning the life lottery. So anything else is a bonus. So me moaning about, oh my God, I'm not getting any work, but actually I'm alive and I'm breathing. I've got family. I've got friends that they're there to support me. I can do all these wonderful things. And
that's it. I mean, we had Chris Piercy on here on, you know, talking about gratitude, and that's it. And if you're in a place where you've got clean water, you've got a roof over your head, you've got food in the fridge, then, you know, you've got essentially nothing to kind of complain about. But you know, it's all relative, and it's, you know, you've gone from a place where you know you could see the future and you had all of this in place and you know, financially, and then to suddenly lose all of that, it's about firstly putting it into context, and then sort of going, right, I've got a problem, I need to, and I think this is the key word from last year, and it's that word pivot. So you can either choose to choose to abandon that and say, okay, this isn't going to work, or you can choose to pivot and, you know, look at different ways of how, and that's exactly what you've done in this time.
Well, yeah, I think that one of the things that, which I haven't shared, like, you know, I had a terrible year, although like it sounds like I'm privileged, you know, I've got a lovely house and all that. I'm truly privileged though, because I mean, last year was such a terrible year for me. Like, lost the business, lost 80% of my year income, which I think for people in like a PAYE job, if you was to tell them right now, right, okay, we're going to take away your monthly pay for about 7 or 8 months this year, now survive. That's like, whoa, okay. That's basically what's happened to us in the, you know, the wedding industry and the events industry. But I had lots of other things happen. I couldn't get married. The stag do got cancelled, which I think was probably one of the things I was looking forward to the most, right? Sure, but I also lost my nan's brother, you know, sudden cancer. We couldn't see him, couldn't go to the funeral. My uncle died of Parkinson's, which is just a, you know, horrific way to leave this life. And if you think of it in a context like that, my uncle, who is now passed away, unfortunately, to Parkinson's, I'm sure whilst I'm moaning, he would love to swap with me right now, to be here with his family. And when you look at it like that, life's okay. Yeah, it might not be the dream that we wanted this year, but whilst we're alive, this heart is still beating, we can still create positivity and still be good people. And that's it. I think it's just looking at things in perspective and being grateful, like Chris said. Absolutely.
You're very much, we sort of mentioned this a little moment ago, you're very much about the importance of creating magical memories and experiences as a magician. But so tell us a bit about that, and how can people bring that again into their own lives? Yeah,
great question. I think it's important to do so. I've got this acronym that I use when I do a lot of my training, which is the idea of magic as an acronym, which each letter stands for a different word. And the idea is being memorable, it's to amaze, it's to give, it's to have interest or interaction, and it's to connect. And I think that whilst our time is very short and time is limited on this earth, I think it's so important that we create wonderful moments. And I don't know where it's come from. I think it's been embedded from me since as a child, that wherever I go, I had this idea of, I think I had a phrase when I was younger, which was, you're not a legend until you die, which sounds really morbid. But everything that I tried to do, I always tried to create a wonderful memory that people would remember it as if it was like the last day with them. So when I was at school or when I worked in retail, if I left another store to go work in another store, I wanted to make sure that whatever I did was such a wonderful experience that they would always remember that. And I've just kind of embedded that into my life to create these wonderful moments. And as you know from my tagline, I truly think that we should be creating memories that will last a lifetime. And yeah, I follow that acronym every day. So first impressions, you know, takes between 7 and 17 seconds to create a first impression. It's really important to have a smile, have some fun. And I think in answer to your question, I think it was, what can we do to create an experience?
Yeah. What can we all do? Yeah.
I think it's just showing up and being authentically yourself and being kind and being a good human being. I don't know if I'll ask you a question, Dean, if that's all right. I don't know if you see this at all, but I think that the pandemic has exposed not how bad we all were, but a direction that we were all going in. I mean, to put this into context, if you think about going on a tube in London, no one talks to each other. They sit there with their phones like this, looking down. But why is that? Why can't we just, and if I started to just have a conversation with someone, they would think I'm weird. If I just said, oh, hello, how are you? They would think I'm bonkers. But that's just me being a human being. What do you think, Dean? Do you think that the pandemic has exposed maybe a direction that we were all going in?
I think so. I think it has taken, it's given people an opportunity to realize what really matters, and that might be family, health, mental health, and those kind of things. And I'd like to think that once we go back into the normal world as such, or however it turns out, that we'll be a bit more grateful. Again, you're talking about gratitude. I think we'll be a bit more grateful for those things. But honestly, I'm not sure if anything on the tube's going to change. That I think we'll very slowly go back into our old ways, and I think that's a shame. But
classic revert to type, isn't it, as a human being?
Yeah, I think that's it. And I might be wrong, and I think podcasts like this and yours, the Unlock podcast, we're talking about these things. Hopefully, some of that will come out, and things might change. So it's like more pessimistic view on it, but
no, I think you're right.
I think I think for the short term, I think people are will very much be grateful and appreciate getting back into if it's events or just meeting up in groups of people. I see it a lot on, I know social media gets quite a bad rap and that kind of thing, but rightfully so in most cases, but also that there's an eagerness for communities to kind of meet up face to face and go back to and enjoy what they were enjoying beforehand. Community groups and things that you talked about, Parkinson's, those sort of health and social care groups that were meeting up and talking about how they were getting on with their conditions and things like that, have had to stop. So people's health has been affected, and and I think we don't necessarily sometimes realize that the power of that social interaction and face to face that it has on our lives. We talked about as being performers, we kind of strive off of those those amazing reactions and the difference that we can make to people's lives in that short time that we spend with them at weddings and things like that. And it really, you leave an event with an adrenaline rush and a buzz from that social interaction. I think we're all missing that at the moment. And
definitely. And I think that you're right. And I'm just like you, Dean. I echo that, where as a proper extrovert, I thrive off people's energy. And even though I'm doing like online shows, it's great, but it's not the same as in person. And I think we need to find creating a wonderful experience in other avenues. It's kind of like the it's the change curve thing, isn't it? But if you think about the Einstein, the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and expecting different results. Now that that's taken away, we have a choice to say, okay, well, are we going to just sit here and sink, or do we swim? And finding, like Chris said and you said, the wonderful things. So for me, I've started to look up more rather than looking down at my phone. I've started to look up and have conversations with people, or just reach out and just chat to them and listen. Whereas I think I didn't do that before. Now, I definitely miss live entertainment, and that was like my buzz to create a magical experience. So now I'm making that choice to have a conversation with someone else. So to give you an example, Tesco's, where I live, there is a wonderful guy on that checkout called Martin. And me and Danielle, my fiance, we will go to Martin all the time. Whenever he has a big queue, we'll queue up and wait, because he's such a great human being. He makes us feel very special every single day. And we chat to him, and it's not a lot, but at Christmas, we decided to get him like a big bag of Maltesers just to say thank you. And to see the light in his face to say, oh, thank you so much. You really made my day. And we said, no, you make our day. And if you think about how small that is, and not to negate anybody working on a checkout, but we all know it's very repetitive and it could be mundane. You probably get some miserable customers coming through. but every single time he makes us feel special, and every single customer, he's the same. And it's finding things like that to look forward to. Why I can't do my events. Do you know what? If I do go Tesco's, I know that I'm going to create a wonderful experience with Martin. And I think it's finding the gratitude for the small things in life of until we can get to some sort of normality again.
And I think that's it. And I think you don't know what kind of day Martin's having, so to then suddenly to receive that, it doesn't have to be a, huge gift. It can just be, words of, words of appreciation and thank you. And the difference that could make to that person's life. And if we think about that more, the world would be a much happier place, I think. And it's just, it's about, like you say, making those magical experiences in the day to day. So, I'll go for a walk around my area and, just say hello to, passers by and, start that sort of conversation and, how are you? And obviously social distance at the moment, but because you just don't know what people are feeling in that moment, and just, or even if it's a friend or family member you've not spoke to for a long time, maybe it is just worth picking up the phone, sending a message and just saying, hey, how are you? And the difference that could make at that time is just profound.
Well, you're so right. And I mean, there's two things there. You've really, you're capturing my brain now here, Dean. So I love this conversation. The one thing, again, just going back to Tesco's, and this isn't just to pick on Tesco's or anywhere, but sometimes when you walk down like an aisle and there might be one of the workers down there that, box cutting open all the stuff, and there might be a bit of cardboard on the floor. If you stand there and watch how many people actually walk past that piece of cardboard and not pick it up, or a bit of rubbish on the floor. Now I do. Now sometimes I might wear gloves, but I'll pick up that piece of rubbish and I'll either take it to the bin or take it to one of the colleagues and say, oh, you just dropped this, I've just picked it up for you. Now that isn't going to change like pollution or, the world or save the world. But what it does do, it makes my self-esteem feel good to let myself know that I'm a good human being and I'm doing something good. It's not going to change, global warming or anything like that, but it's just something that helps. But it's interesting for anyone out there, go to a supermarket. It might look a bit strange if you just stand there, but just watch and you'll see how many people just ignore stuff. And there are so many blinkers we need to take off and think about the world. And then the second thing, just really quickly, was the thing that you said about there, checking in with people. Yeah, just send a voice memo, send a private video on Instagram to someone saying, hey, hope you're well, lovely to see you, hope you're well, haven't seen you in a while, hope everything's okay, thinking of you, take care.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it earlier on as someone that's an extrovert and is very positive on the outside, at least from what people. But you were struggling at one point, and people thought you were okay, but you weren't. So just those little, catch ups and just those little messages can really, as I say, can really help. Because you don't know what people are feeling at that time.
That's right, absolutely.
So there was one more thing that I sort of wanted to sort of talk to you about, and that's about productivity. And and I think that's really relevant for the times that we find ourselves in. We can find that we can procrastinate quite a bit and not get things done. And I think you have quite a few tips on improving productivity. So just give you an opportunity to give some insight into that. And
thank you. Yeah, so I get a lot of comments from people saying that you're everywhere, Ricky. You're on every social media platform. You're always doing something. And again, I think it's to do with the choice, because I don't know, there's something inside me that just wants to push myself to achieve. Someone actually called me an overachiever, which I don't think is true, but they just said, you're everywhere, Ricky. And I'm not a master of it, but I've found some really great tips through lockdown last year that really helped me. And there's just some simple ideas that can help you be more productive. So the classic thing is the Pomodoro technique, which I've got a little Pomodoro. So for audio listeners, you might not see this, but you can hear it. It's a little kitchen timer shaped as a Pomodoro, which is Italian for like a tomato. And it's basically, the Pomodoro technique is a simple idea of where you set little intervals of work. So for example, you have to turn your phone off, put it on flight mode. You have to get rid of all distractions, and you set the timer to 25 minutes. And you just work solidly in that 25 minutes with no distractions, laser focused in that 25 minutes. So it could be that you want to do your emails. So I want to check my emails for 25 minutes. then what you do at the end of that 25 minutes, the alarm goes off and then you stop for 5 minutes. That 5 minutes could be having a water break. It might be going to get some fresh air. And then you reset the timer again and do another 25 minutes. And then you repeat that. And if you do that like 3 or 4 times in a row, you then obviously up the breaks to about 15 minutes or 20 minutes. But what it allows you to do, it gets you really laser focused into your work so that you have no distractions. And as you said, it avoids procrastination. I am a terrible procrastinator. Like Clubhouse bloody pings, all the time, things like that, but this really helps me because it allows me to just have that laser focus. Now, one of the things you have to think about is you have to assign the Pomodoro to a designated task. So if, for example, like Dean, you were going to edit this podcast, and if from hindsight, you knew that a podcast may take an hour or 2 hours, using the 25 minutes, you might say, okay, that's going to take me probably about 3 or 4 Pomodoros. So that means 4 25-minute settings. So it allows you to kind of break your day into intervals, and you can just really focus on stuff and you just avoid that procrastination. So that's one of my main tips that I usually do. The second
That's really good. And I think the point you made around just having one specific task that you're going to do for that 25 minutes is really important, because I think we can be overloaded with like kind of to-do lists, and I think that's half the problem, is you then end up procrastinating around those, and you think, oh, I need to do this, I need to do it, and you end up doing nothing. Whereas being focused and giving yourself those time limits is, I think, really productive way of using your time.
And you can link the Forest app. So it's a really great app. It's free.
I was going to mention this, but go for it.
So it's really, really fun. It's it's very cool, actually. So it's I think it's free. I can't remember now, but it's on the App Store. I think you might be able to get it on Android as well. But it works in line with the Pomodoro technique. So you could either have the phone in the background, and basically it's you set it to 25 minutes, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, whatever you want as your timer. And it starts out as a little seedling, and then it starts to grow into a tree. And the really cool thing is, the reason that it helps with laser focus and procrastination is that if you see a message come through on your social media and you have to leave the app, you get an instant notification within about 4 or 5 seconds saying, you've left the Forest app. If you don't get back to the app, your tree will die, which sounds so morbid, but that pressure of going, oh my God, I don't want a tree to die. You then jump back onto it. So it's a really nice little buzz to get you back into it. But one of the great things is that visually you get to create this wonderful forest to show how productive you are, and you earn little tree credits that eventually go into planting real trees in the world to help countries that need them. And that's just a wonderful, wonderful little thing, I think. And you can tie it nicely. You can have the Forest app's music playing in the background, so nice bit of nature sound if you want. Or like me, I just have the app on, silent it, and then I just put my Alexa on in the background and listen to some nice music, and I can watch the tree growing. So it was really good fun.
I think the point you made around it, that visual representation of all of the forest that you've grown, of all the things and the tasks that you've done, gives you, it's a good time to reflect. And actually, because sometimes you can go for a week and think, oh, what have I actually achieved? What have I done? But if you can look back and see, look, I've grown this theoretical forest of ideas and things and tasks, and I think that's really good way of reflecting back on maybe a week or so.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. And I think linking into what we've all been through as well, on a side note to 2020, we may not have achieved a lot of things like productivity wise, but there are some wonderful things that you may have achieved. And I highly recommend, if you haven't done this already, just still go back, review your last week, review your last month, review your last year, and just see all the wonderful things that came out. Yes, you may not have made 80% of your income like I did, but I created some wonderful human connections and memories. Definitely use it to reflect. I love that.
So you mentioned the Pomodoro effect. Was there anything else around productivity you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, so a classic one for me is writing lists, but I usually write my lists the night before. So what that allows me to do is to wake up and I know exactly what I need to do. I've also been using, and one of the books I'll recommend at the end of this is the Atomic Habits book by James Clear. It's a wonderful, wonderful, clever system. And I've been using that to help me be productive. So it's interesting that we've been talking about the Forest app and phones, but every night I've made a commitment, and I'm now on day 33, I think it is. I made a commitment that at 10 o'clock at night, all devices go off. So it's no TV, it's no phone. I'm 31 now, so I'm going to bed about 9 o'clock at night.
Yeah, I was thinking 10 o'clock. I'm
Yeah,
already in
God,
bed by
yeah.
then. Well,
That's
no,
late,
not
isn't
quite.
it? Yeah. But 10 o'clock, all devices go off. My phone goes in the next room, and I put the alarm on for like 6 o'clock. Now, I've got a nice alarm clock, so guys, check this out. Go get one of these if you can. It's called a Lumi clock, and it basically lights up organically, so it gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And the idea of it is to help with light hitting your eyelids to naturally wake you up. So if you used to sleep in a house with no blinds or no curtains, you naturally wake up because the light's there. So that's what it does. So what I do, I go to bed at 10. I then journal at night, and then read a book for like a couple of pages. Go to bed, wake up when that Illumi clock goes off, and then like at 6 or 6:30 when the other alarm goes off on my phone, I have to get off my butt, go into the other room and turn it off. And because it's so annoying, by the time I've turned it off, I'm up and I'm awake.
Yeah. I think
And
if you've
then,
got to get out, if you've got to move and get out of bed to turn it off, that's really you're already out. So
yeah,
and I'm not sure if you're going to mention this with because I've not read Atomic Habits yet, but it's on my list, the next one to read. But I don't know if it's around that idea of sort of stacking. So now that you're up, you've then got right. So now I go and jump in the shower or I brush my teeth. So you've got this sort of flow of different activities, and that gets you doing. Again, I don't know. I've not read Atomic yet. But,
you're absolutely right. Yeah, so that's absolutely true. Habit stacking and commitment devices. So my commitment device is the phone in the other room. And because I now wake up next to my bed, all I've got is the Lumi alarm clock that lights up, and all I have is a book and a journal. So what this means is, as you said, I wake up, I go turn off the alarm, I then put some water on my face to wake myself up, and I leave the phone in the other room. So I don't take it with me because doom scrolling and stuff like that. I don't want to start my day off going through social media and feeling imposter syndrome or comparisonitis. I leave it there. I go to the bed and then I do my journal. 3 things I'm grateful for, 3 affirmations, 3 things that will make today really awesome. And then I read about 30 pages. And I'm quite a slow reader, so I read about 30 pages. And then that's my morning routine setup. So that's by 6:30, I'm up. I've read 30 pages, I've done my journal, and then I go have my breakfast, and then I'm usually in the office about 7 o'clock. I say the office, it's just my house, in the other room. But what that's allowed me to do is to be so productive because, in answer to your question, I'm up, I'm awake, and I'm working when other people are sleeping or scrolling through through social media. It does not help at all. So that's why I did that. I wanted to reduce the amount of time I'm doom scrolling, have that in the other room. I can wake up and I can just be productive. And I start off with something really cool, a book to make me in that right mindset. So then by the time I'm in the office at 7:30, I'm ready for the day. And I do make a commitment that by 4 p.m. or 4:30, I'm off. And I usually go on the PlayStation, play Fortnite or something like that. And that's my little treat for waking up. And that is just helping me be productive. And I'm not like an overachiever, but I've achieved so many things in January just because of having that system. So my recommendation, although the Pomodoro technique, I've got an ebook as well if people want that, with 10 tips that will really help you, that talks about the Pomodoro as well. But it's just creating a system, absolutely creating a system that will help you be productive. And it can be done. You've just got to find the right thing that will help you.
Brilliant. I'll make sure to put a link into that ebook because I think that'd be really, I think people have found that really useful. And it obviously expands on some of the ideas that you've already talked about. So yeah, I have 3 questions that I ask every guest. And the first one is, can you share your favorite quote?
Yes, I'm going to be greedy. Can I share 2?
I think you can. Yeah, I think I'll allow you to. Yeah, no problem.
So I'm a man of quotes. I get the piss took out of me a lot because I'm always bringing up quotes. But there's 2, and I'm going to read them because they're not long, but they it's worth me giving this my full attention. So the first one is by Brené Brown, who I really love. She's an American professor, if people don't know her. She has a podcast as well called Unlocking Us. And it's the idea of vulnerability. So you mentioned it earlier on, Dean, and I think that this is one of the things that 2021 we need to really recognize about being vulnerable. We often see it as a weakness, but it is a strength. And she talks about this. Vulnerability isn't winning or losing. It's having the courage to show up and be seen when we have no control over the outcome. Vulnerability is not weakness. It is our greatest measure of courage. And I just think it's so powerful because that's exactly what I did last year. I was up against the odds. I had a shit year, excuse my French there. And I just showed up every day, being at my worst, being open, saying how tough it was, and just being vulnerable. And I think that's what led to some success at the end of last year. I was just out there being brave and bold. So that's one of my favorite ones for this year. And the second one is by Diane Ackerman, who's an American poet. I don't want to get to the end of my life and find that I just lived the length of it. I want to have lived the width of it as well. And I think that's just a testament to what I do. And for everybody listening to this podcast, we need to create these magical experiences and live your life.
Yeah, we only have one life, and if we can experience that through, more magical experiences, why wouldn't we want to do that? And that's just
absolutely,
bringing magic not only to our own lives but to others as well, as how we talked about. Wonderful. Some really good quotes to share, and thank you for that. And I think some sentiments that we could all sort of live by.
Absolutely.
So my second question, can you recommend something that you have been inspired by? So this might be a book, a piece of music or art. It's up to you, but something our listeners might enjoy.
Okay, great. So I guess I'll just say the Atomic Habits book by James Clear, really. It's really, really great, really simple read, great system. It will make you want to start thinking about quitting bad habits and working on creating your systems. As soon as I read it, I literally started to get like a big A3 sketch pad out and start writing, right, what's going to be my habit stack? What's going to be my commitment device? And I'm 33 days in and it's working a treat. Yes, there are days when I don't do things, but I think that book has changed my life, especially this year, because it's just allowed me to get so productive. So Atomic Habits by James Clear, amazing book, definitely.
I totally agree. That's next on my sort of reading list. I'm reading The Art of Impossible at the moment, and that will be next on my list to read. So I look forward to that. Are there any other words of wisdom that you'd like to leave with our listeners?
I think it's to look at things in perspective. Yes, the world is crazy. The world is on fire, as they say. But there are so many wonderful things that I think that we neglect. And I had this conversation with someone very close to me recently about how it was a difficult year for them last year and how it still is difficult right now. But there are so many wonderful things that happened in 2020. There's some wonderful human connections and magical and amazing memories. And I think that we really need to just stop, take our foot off the gas, and just look around and be kind, be human beings, not human doings, treat each other with respect, and just be a good human being and be kind. I think we really need to get back to that. So look around, look at things in perspective, focus on what you can control, not worry about what you can't control, and just genuinely be a great human being this year.
I think it's going back to those fundamentals of what being human is about, and being kind and that social interaction. At the moment it can't be face to face, but just, I'm sorry, I've got aircrafts going crazy over my head. We're on the bombing range path, and last night was crazy. I think the RAF have got some new jets that they're playing with, and it's just mental at the minute.
Nice.
It's really loud now. I don't know where they are.
I had this in my podcast yesterday. I've just put it out there.
Oh, the chainsaw. I saw the...
but it didn't get picked up for some reason, but I could hear it so loud. I was like, can you not hear that?
I could see all the birds moving and everything.
It sounds like a UFO or something flying across or something. Yeah.
Yeah, if I disappear at a moment.
Wow.
I can't remember where I was now.
I think we were at the...
the other words of... any other words of wisdom? Then you said that. I think, What did I say? It's about going back to...
I think you were summarising it, weren't you?
I think going back to the fundamentals of what it is to be human and to be kind and to reach out to those people. And as we've talked about, that giving people that magical experience, whether that's just, making people aware that you're thankful and grateful for what they do. And I think that's all we can do.
Absolutely. It's just make a difference, isn't it, this year? We know it was tough last year. We want to get back to, like you said, those wonderful events, concerts, and just be great again at interacting with human beings. But just make a difference this year. Just be kind and be a good human being.
That's wonderful. I think that's the Perfect sentence to end this podcast on. As always, Ricky, it's been a pleasure to talk with you, and you've shared some really interesting and actionable things here that will really benefit people. But before you go, where can our listeners connect with you online?
Yeah, so I'm pretty much on most social media platforms. So LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. You can find me on Clubhouse as well. And it's under Ricky Locke Magic. And also, thank you, I've got the podcast as well, which is the Unlock Podcast, where I talk about similar things, about the idea of living the best version of yourself and how to create a successful and positive life. So yeah, that's on all podcast platforms as well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Ricky Locke for joining me on the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I would really encourage you to download Ricky's guide on productivity and to give the Pomodoro technique a go. Also, have a think about how you can create magical moments for yourself and others during your day-to-day lives. As always, check out all the links to everything we have mentioned in the show notes below, or head over to www.themindhustlepodcast.com. Please do get in touch, as I'd love to know what you think. You can leave a review or head over to the website where you can leave your questions through the voicemail facility. Now, until next week, I'm Dino Dell, and this is the Mind Hustle Podcast. Thank you for listening, and make sure to have a magical week.